Judges chapter 10. Troubles in Gilead. After Abimelech, Tola, son of Puah, son of Dodo, man of Issachar, arose to deliver Israel. He dwelt in Shamir in the hill country of Ephraim. He judged Israel for 23 years, then died and was buried in Shamir. After him, Jair the Gileadite arose and judged Israel for 23 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys and had 30 towns in the land of Gilead, which are called Jair's villages to this day. Then Jair died and was buried in came on. Then Bani Israel again did what was evil in Adonai's eyes. They worshipped the Baalim, the Ashtaroth, gods of Aram, gods of Zidon, gods of Moab, gods of the children of Ammon, and gods of the Philistines. They abandoned Adonai and did not worship him. So Adonai's anger burned against Israel, and he sold them over into the hand of the Philistines and into the hand of the children of Ammon. They shattered and crushed Bani Israel that year for 18 years, all Bani Israel who were beyond the Jordan in the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead. Then the children of Ammon also crossed over the Jordan to fight against Judah, Benjamin, and the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was greatly distressed. Then Bani Israel cried out to Adonai, saying, "We have sinned against you, for we have forsaken our God and have worshipped the Baalim." So Adonai said to Bani Israel, "Did I not deliver you from the Egyptians, the Amorites, the children of Ammon, the Philistines, the Zidonites, the Amalekites, and the Maonites who oppressed you? When you cried out to me, I delivered you from their hand, yet you have forsaken me and worshipped other gods. Therefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry out to the gods which you have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your distress." Then Bani Israel said to Adonai, "We have sinned. Do to us whatever seems good to you, but please deliver us this day." Then they removed the foreign gods from among them and worshipped Adonai, so his soul could not bear the misery of Israel. And the children of Ammon were summoned and camped in Gilead. Bani Israel gathered together and camped in Mizpah. The people of the princes of Gilead said to one another, "Whoever begins to fight against the children of Ammon will be chief over all the inhabitants of Gilead." Judges 11. Jephthah's valor and vow. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, but he was the son of a prostitute, while Gilead was Jephthah's father. But Gilead's wife bore him sons, and when the wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You won't inherit in our father's house, for you are a son of another woman." Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. Some worthless fellows joined with Jephthah and went out with him. Now it came after a while that the children of Ammon fought with Israel. When the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to fetch Jephthah from the land of Tob. They said to Jephthah, "Come and be our chief, so we may fight the children of Ammon." Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Didn't you hate me and drive me out of my father's house? So why are you coming to me now that you're in trouble? Here is why we're turning to you." The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "Come with us, fight the children of Ammon, and then you will become head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you take me back home to fight the children of Ammon, and Adonai gives them over to me, I should become your head." The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "Let Adonai be witness between us if we don't do as you say." Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and chief over them. After Jephthah repeated all his terms before Adonai at Mizpah, then Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the children of Ammon, saying, "What have you to do with me, that you have come to me to make war in my land?" The king of the children of Ammon answered the messengers of Jephthah, "Because Israel took away my land when they came up from Egypt, from the Arnon to the Jabbok as far as the Jordan. Now therefore return them peaceably." But Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the children of Ammon, and said to him, "Thus say Jephthah, Israel did not take away the land of Moab or the land of the children of Ammon. For upon departing from Egypt, Israel traveled through the wilderness to the Sea of Reeds and came to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, "Please let me pass through your land." But the king of Edom would not consent. Similarly, he sent word to the king of Moab, but he would not consent. So Israel, after staying in Kadesh, traveled through the wilderness around the land of Edom from the land of Moab, came to the east side of the land of Moab, and camped on either side of the Arnon. The other side of the Arnon, but they did not enter the territory of Moab, for the Arnon was the border of Moab. Then Israel sent messengers to King Sihon of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon, and Israel said to them, "Please let us pass through your land through the territory." So Sihon gathered all his troops, camped in Jahaz, and fought against Israel. But Adonai, God of Israel, gave Sihon and all his troops into the hand of Israel, and they defeated him. So Israel took possession of all the lands of the Amorites, the inhabitants of that country. Thus they possessed all the territory of the Amorites, from the Arnon as far as Jabbok, as from the wilderness as far as the Jordan. So now, Adonai, God of Israel, dispossess the Amorites from before his people Israel. So should you possess their land. Don't you possess what Shamash your God gives you to possess? Likewise, whatever Adonai your God has dispossessed from before us, this we will possess. Besides, are you any better than Balak son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel? Did he ever fight against them? Well, Israel was living in Heshbon and its villages, in Aroer and its villages, and all the cities on both sides of the Arnon for 300 years. Why didn't you try to recover them all that time? So I myself have not transgressed against you, yet you are doing me harm by waging war against me. May Adonai, the judge today between Bnei Israel and the children of Ammon. However, the king of the children of Ammon paid no attention to the words of Jephthah that he sent him. Then the Ruach Adonai came upon Jephthah, so he marched through Gilead and Manasseh, and passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he crossed over to the children of Ammon. Then Jephthah vowed a vow to Adonai, and said, If you will indeed give the children of Ammon into my hand, then it will be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return safely from the children of Ammon, it will be Adonai's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. So Jephthah crossed over to the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Adonai gave them into his hand. So he utterly defeated them into Aroer until you come to Minnith, 20 towns as far as Abel to Minnith, 20 towns as far as Abel Cheramim. So the children of Ammon were subdued before Bnei Israel. Now, when Jephthah arrived at his home in Mizpah, behold, his daughter was coming out to meet him with tambourines and with dances. Now she was his only child. Besides he had no son or daughter. Upon seeing her, he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you made me bow down in grief. You've made me miserable, for I have opened my mouth to Adonai, and I cannot take it back. My father, you have opened your mouth to Adonai, she said to him. Do to me what proceeded from your mouth, since Adonai brought vengeance on your enemies, the children of Ammon. She said further to her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me be alone 2 months, so that I may go on the mountain and mourn my virginity, I and my companions. Go, he said. So he sent her away for 2 months. So she left, she and her companions, and mourned the mountains because of her virginity. Then at the 2 months she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow he had made. So she was never intimate with a man. So it became a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel would go annually to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah and the Gileadite for 4 days a year. Judges chapter 12. And the men of Ephraim were summoned and crossed over to Zaphon. They said to Jephthah, Why did you cross over to fight the children of Ammon without calling us to go with you? We will burn your house over with fire. So Jephthah responded to them, I and my people were in a bitter conflict with the children of Ammon. Yet when I called you, you didn't deliver me from their hand. So when I saw that you weren't going to deliver, I put my life in my hand and crossed over against the children of Ammon. And Adonai gave them into my hand. So why have you come to me today to fight me? Then Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead and fought Ephraim. The men of Gilead defeated Ephraim because they said, You Gileadites are just fugitives of Ephraim in the midst of Ephraim and in the midst of Manasseh. The Gileadites captured the fords of the Jordan opposite Ephraim. So when any of the fugitives of Ephraim said, Let me cross over, the men of Gilead would ask him, Are you an Ephraimite? If he said no, then they would say to him, Say now, Shibboleth. And he said Sibboleth, since he could not pronounce it right. Then they would seize him and slay him at the fords of the Jordan. At that time 42,000 of Ephraim fell. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gileadite died and was buried in one of the towns of Gilead. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. Now he had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He sent them outside and brought in 30 girls from outside of his sons. He judged Israel for 7 years. Then Ibzan died and was buried in Bethlehem. Then after him, Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel. He judged 10 years. Israel 10 years. Then Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried in Ajalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon, son of the Hillel, the Pirathonite, judged Israel. Then he had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys, and he judged Israel 8 years. Then Abdon, son of Hillel, the Pirathite, died and was buried in Pirathon in the land of Ephraim in the hill country of the Amalekites. Judges chapter 13, birth of Samson. Bnei Israel again did what was evil in Adonai's eyes, and Adonai gave them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. Now there was a certain man from Zorah, from a Danite clan, whose name was Manoah. His wife was barren, and bore no children. Then the angel of Adonai appeared to the woman and said to her, Behold, now you are barren and have not borne children, but you will conceive and bear a son. Now therefore be careful not to drink wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing. For behold, you will conceive and bear a son. Let no razor come upon his head. For the boy will be a Nazarite to God from the womb. He will begin to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of God came to me and his appearance was like the appearance of an angel of God, very awesome. But I did not ask his name. He said to me, Behold, you will conceive and bear a son, so drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean, for the child will be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah entreated Adonai and said, My Lord, please let the man of God whom you have sent come to us again and teach us what we will do before the boy is born. God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she was sitting in the fields, but her husband Manoah was not with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, and said to him, Look, the man that came to me the other day, he has appeared to me again. Or he didn't say again, but has appeared to me. So Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he asked him, Are you the one who spoke to the woman? I am, he said. Then Manoah said, Now may your words come about. What will be the child's rule and mission? The angel of Adonai said to Manoah, Let the woman abstain from all that I mentioned to her. Should she not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink wine or strong drink, or eat any unclean thing? She must observe all that I commanded her. Then Manoah said to the angel of Adonai, Please let us detain you so that we may prepare a young goat for you. But the angel of Adonai said to Manoah, If you could detain me, I would not eat your food. But if you present a burnt offering, then offer it to Adonai. For Manoah did not realize that he was the angel of Adonai. Then Manoah asked the angel of Adonai, What is your name, so that when your words come to pass, we may honor you? But the angel of Adonai said to him, Why do you ask for my name? It is wonderful. Manoah took the young goat with the meal offering and offered them on the rock to Adonai. He did something wonderful as Manoah and his wife were watching, for it came about when the flame went up from off the altar toward heaven, and that angel of Adonai ascended in the flame of the altar, and Manoah and his wife were looking on. Then they fell on their faces to the ground, but the angel of Adonai appeared no more to Manoah or to his wife. Then Manoah realized that he was the angel of Adonai. Manoah said to his wife, We will surely die because we have seen God. But his wife said, If Adonai desired to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a meal offering from our hand, nor would he have shown us all these things, or let us hear such things at this time. Then the woman bore a son and called his name Samson. So the boy grew up, and Adonai blessed him. The Ruach HaKodesh began to stir him in Mahanedan between Zorah and Eshtael. Judges 14, the riddle of the lion. Then Samson went down to Timnah and eyed in Timnah a woman, one of the daughters of the Philistines. So he came back and told his father and mother, saying, I have seen a woman in Timnah, one of the daughters of the Philistines, so now get her for me as a wife. And his father and his mother said to him, Is there no woman among the daughters of your kinsmen or among our people that you are going to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? But Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she is the right one in my eyes. But his father and mother did not know that it was of Adonai, for he was seeking a pretext against the Philistines, for that at the time the Philistines were ruling over Israel. While his father and mother went down to Timnah, Samson went to the vineyards of Timnah, and behold, a young lion came roaring at him. Then the Ruach Adonai came mightily upon him, and he tore him apart, and one would have split a young goat, yet he had nothing in his hand, but he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. So he went down and talked with the woman, and she looked right in Samson's eyes. After a while he returned to get her, but turned aside to look at the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. So he scraped it into his hands and went on, eating as he went. Now when he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they ate it, and though he did not tell them that he had scraped the honey from the carcass of the lion. Then his father went down to the woman, and Samson made a banquet there, for so the young men used to do. Now it came to pass that when they saw him, and brought 30 companions to be with him. Then Samson said to them, Let me now propose a riddle to you. If you can indeed solve it for me during the 7 days of the banquet, and figure it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot solve it for me, then you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. Propose your riddle, they said to him. Let's hear it. So he said to them, Out of the cedar came forth food, out of the strong came forth sweet. But for the 3 days they could not solve the riddle. Now on the 7th day they said to Samson's wife, Coax your husband so that he will explain the riddle to us, or else we will burn you in your father's house with fire. Have you invited us to impoverish? So Samson's wife wept before him and said, You only hate me, you don't love me, you proposed the riddle to the sons of my people, yet you haven't explained it to me. Look, he said, I haven't explained it to my father or to my mother, so should I explain it to you? But she wept before him for the 7 days while her banquet lasted. So it was on the 7th day that he told her, because she nagged him. Then she told him the riddle of the sons of her people. So the men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, What's sweeter than honey and stronger than a lion? But he responded to them, If you haven't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't solve my riddle. Then the Ruach Adonai came mightily upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 of their men, took their spoil, and gave the changes of their clothes to those who solved the riddle. Since his rage was burning, he went up to his father's house, but Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his best man.